All right, everyone, welcome back to Talking Toku, Boston's only podcast about Godzilla, Gamera, Ultraman, and all their kaiju friends. I am your co-host, David Scrivani.
I am Brian Kershaw.
And welcome back. We got a pretty big show today. We got a lot of stuff in the news. And, of course, we're going to be talking all about Godzilla vs. Kong, which is the whole reason we started this podcast. But, of course, two quick things. First off, the day we're recording this, April 5th. Very happy birthday to Roger Corman, B-movie extraordinaire. He's like, I don't want to say he's like in his 90s and still making movies. So good for him.
If you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
Exactly, yeah. And then on a more sad note, just recently this week, March 31st, visual effects designer Cleve Hall passed away. He's known for doing a lot of B movies. He's done effects for Ghoulies, Reanimator, The First Troll, and he was actually in Pee-wee's Big Adventure in the Godzilla suit in that scene.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a big Godzilla fan, and I actually got to meet him at G-Fest in 2013 when I went. He did a whole what's this panel? I don't know why I couldn't think of the word. He had this whole panel of like him building like a little diorama of Baragon from Frankenstein versus Baragon, like when he's like eating the horses, and like, oh, this is awesome. He was like super. He was a huge fan of Godzilla, and you know, it sucks he's gone. He was a really nice guy, very interesting guy, but it was in a good way. And he had a show on the Sci-Fi Channel called Monster Man. It was just all about him and his daughter like doing really cool practical effects work.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Never watched it.
It was a good show. It only lasted for like one season, but it was
The Sci-Fi Channel had some cool shows and
not cool shows.
Not cool shows.
Absolutely. But anyways, yep, rest in peace, Cleve Hall. I believe his daughter Constance is doing a GoFundMe to get him buried in the cemetery next to his mother. So maybe I'll put the GoFundMe link in the description for this podcast episode. We'll see. But just want to get those two things out of the way first because I feel we needed to talk about that kind of stuff. Let's get into the news. Brian, do you have any news for us?
Not particularly.
Okay, good thing I have a bunch. Because these past 2 weeks since we talked about Pacific Rim: The Black have been pretty heavy in terms of news. First up, not one, not two, but 3 new video games of Godzilla have been announced. Mobile only, but so who really cares? But I saw your eyes light up when I said that.
Are those really video games? These aren't real. That's not for real gamers.
I know, it's not. The first one is, which I believe is already out. It's Run Godzilla, which, from what I can tell, is essentially a Godzilla version of the Chow Garden from the Sonic Adventure games.
Never thought I'd hear Godzilla and Sonic in the same sentence.
I've had 2 friends who've played it. They both say it's not great, so...
It's a mobile game.
It's a mobile, but yeah.
I don't know what you expect.
I know, yeah, you know.
That's not like the pinnacle of game design comes
No, not at all.
From mobile games.
Yeah, your mileage may vary. Maybe someone else out there will enjoy.
Raid Shadow Legends sponsoring this podcast.
Oh my God, could you imagine if we got sponsored by Raid?
Apparently, they sponsor everybody. Like, they just hand out sponsorships.
Well, I know what I'm going to do when I get home.
Yeah, just check the email. Make an email for this podcast. And before you know it, they'll end up in your spam box.
Oh boy, can't wait. Also, there is Godzilla Destruction, which appears to be a top-down destruction simulator. That's all I really got. I haven't. The announcement trailer for these 3 games was 40 seconds long, so it didn't really give me a whole lot to go off of.
Wait, they were all announced in the same trailer?
Yes.
What?
They're mobile games. What do you expect?
Are they all by the same developer?
I don't even know. And then there's Godzilla Battle Line, which is a multiplayer game where you build a team of 3 kaiju and go head-to-head with players around the world. Personally, that one sounds the most promising, but it's also a mobile game, so, you know.
Be prepared to pay real money for that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, if mobile games are your thing, by all means, check them out and add us on Twitter or Facebook and tell us how these games are, because Lord knows we're never going to play them.
Upload a full gameplay to YouTube and link it to the channel.
the Run Godzilla long play, all probably like 2 hours.
Speed run 90%.
All right. Also, we discussed a couple weeks ago Shin Ultraman when our good pal Jake was on the podcast. Unfortunately, though, due to COVID-19, Shin Ultraman has been delayed indefinitely due to production delays caused by COVID. It was originally scheduled for release this summer, but now it doesn't have a release date whatsoever. All we know right now is that Tsuburaya Productions has said that they will make further announcements about their release schedule as plans are finalized.
It's just how things are.
It really is. I mean,
if I had a nickel for every production that's gotten delayed, I'd be...
I mean,
I wouldn't be rich, but I'd have enough money to like maybe buy a dinner or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
The amount of times the next Jurassic World movie has been delayed alone.
Good. We don't need another Jurassic World movie.
I just want them to cancel it.
I know, but that's not going to happen. But yeah, I mean, it sucks, but it's understandable. I was looking forward to it, but I'm sure it wasn't going to come in the States anyways for another couple months after it was released in Japan. But who knows? But
that vaccine's coming. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean,
it's not long.
From at the time of recording this, I saw on the news yesterday, we have 4 million people vaccinated in the States alone.
I'm going to be one of them next week.
There you go. Look at that.
Get vaccinated.
And we talked about you not getting vaccinated last time, so character development.
Yeah,
Brian.
yeah, character development. in this show, we're already better than King of the Monsters.
I know, right? Speaking of Shin Ultraman, Shin Ultraman and Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time, and Shin Godzilla director Hideaki Anno, he's just throwing his hat into every tokusatsu ring, because just yesterday, I believe, he announced that for the 50th anniversary of the Kamen Rider franchise, he's going to be doing Shin Kamen Rider. I know you don't know much about Shin Kamen Rider. Guess what? Neither do I. But I know it's around the same popularity level as Ultraman. All I really know is that it's a lot of martial arts and motorcycles and stuff.
I like both those things.
I know. So. I've seen various clips on Twitter. I'm like, wow, that's rad.
That motorcycle scene in Final Wars turned me on to motorcycles.
Oh boy.
Oh man, if it's anything like that, I am down for it.
And I was seeing like weird, like the guy was like turning the camera upside down during fight scenes. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm here for it. No idea what Shin Kamen Rider is going to be like. I'll be interested to see, because there is actually another Shin Kamen Rider that came out in the 90s that leaned really, really heavily into body horror. And considering what Anno did with Shin Godzilla, I don't know if we'll go that route, because I feel like you wouldn't want to draw comparisons to that first one, but who knows? It'll be cool though. Maybe this will be the thing that turns me on to Kamen Rider in general. We'll see.
Sounds interesting to me. I'll watch it.
Yeah. But at a press conference yesterday, he said, I got a lot out of the TV show 50 years ago, and 50 years later, I started this project with the feeling that I'd like to return the favor in a small way. With Shin Ultraman delayed indefinitely, this still has a release window of March of 2023. Whether or not that actually comes to pass, who knows? I would imagine the world will be a little less chaotic around that time.
Don't say that.
Yeah, I know. I probably just jinxed it.
Yeah, now it's all going to go down the toilet.
Yeah. COVID will get worse thanks to me. You can all blame me.
We're going to get some like horrible variant that does something. I don't know.
That just doesn't. You can't. There's no vaccine. There's no known cure or vaccine for it.
Oh, it's like the COVID movie that's coming out.
Oh yeah,
the one that's like
God.
Is it like a Michael Bay production?
I think it is a Michael Bay production.
I saw the trailer for it, and before I could even tell who was directing it, I said, "This is a Michael Bay movie," because everyone looks golden and sweaty.
And don't they like it's like COVID-23 is mutated or some stuff?
Yeah,
like that. Oh my
COVID
God.
COVID-23, and then they have to like kill people who have it or something, or I don't know, or like
God.
there's like no one left or something. I don't know. It looks dumb and it's way too soon.
That's gonna age like milk.
Yeah, no. It already has.
It hasn't even come out yet, and it already has aged.
Yeah, I don't even know when it's coming out, and
Yeah.
I've seen the trailer once.
I don't think I even seen the trailer all the way through. I think I just saw just bits and pieces. I'm like,
Well-
wow, that looks stupid.
Well, the best part is because it was all the rage for like a day, and then now you ask people about it, and they're like, "What's that?"
Yeah,
Because they already forgot.
exactly.
Because it's almost like real life is more entertaining.
I know. But all right. Also in the news, Pacific Rim: The Black season 2 officially announced.
Okay. I mean, we called that.
We did call it.
It was not hard to see.
Not at all. No details have been released whatsoever on release date, plot, etc.
I imagine probably next year.
Yeah. I mean, how long ago did Netflix announce season 2 of Ultraman? A long time, at least 2 years, and we've seen nothing of that.
But then with the Godzilla anime movies, they came out pretty rapid fire.
But that wasn't a Netflix production.
Oh.
That wasn't made specifically for Netflix like Pacific Rim was. Like those were released in Japan theatrically, and then worldwide got the Netflix treatment.
Got it. Okay.
So it's a little different. I don't know how Netflix does their business, but I don't know. I hope we see it sooner rather than later.
I mean, I imagine that Netflix just contracts production houses to make them instead of just having like an in-house team.
Oh, absolutely. I doubt Netflix has.
I mean, I bet they have an in-house team somewhere.
Yeah, but they have a lot of anime, and I'm sure they have.
Yeah.
It's too much for one team to work on. So yeah, who knows when that'll come out? I'm gonna hope for next year.
I mean, it's the best thing I've seen on like as a Netflix original that I've seen recently. So like,
Yeah, probably since Castlevania.
yeah, because most of the stuff that Netflix puts out just either doesn't interest me or isn't good.
Absolutely, yeah.
But Castlevania's a good show.
It is.
You haven't watched it? Go watch it.
Go
Even if
watch
you
it.
don't like the games or you don't like vampires, doesn't matter. It's still cool.
It is very cool. And finally, this is not really a news thing, just more of a interesting tidbit that will allow us to lead into the main topic. And it hasn't. It's kind of been forgotten at the time of recording this, anyways. Shortly before Godzilla vs. Kong came out, and shortly after Zack Snyder's Justice League came out, a bunch of the fans, quote unquote, of Zack Snyder's Justice League started to review bomb Godzilla vs. Kong, demanding to hashtag restore the Snyderverse.
Yeah, but what's that got to do with Godzilla?
I guess showing Warner Brothers that they don't want Godzilla, they want more Justice League.
You see, these people, they're fans, but they're so toxic that you even have like Zack Snyder being like, yeah, these people, I'm not okay with them. I think there was even like a didn't they like try to do like a live premiere of Justice League, and like a bunch of the people that were on there were like toxic?
Yes,
and then he like called them out.
He called them out, and then they like totally turned their back on him completely, and like went into some really depraved stuff that like my blood was boiling.
Yeah.
About the stuff they said. I'm like, wow, you guys are the worst
Did they
humanity
say
has
it,
to offer.
Did they say that like on the actual thing or like on
No,
Twitter?
like I think they said it on Twitter.
Oh.
Like I think like after he like, you know, talked, been like after he like denounced him, they like left the Zoom call.
Of course they did. Because they're cowards.
So, yeah, and then they had like started their own live stream on a different channel.
3 viewers.
Oh my god.
No, those people are insane.
They are.
And,
And
like,
I mean,
and like we had like there's people like that in every community, but like
yeah.
I feel like these people with the power that they feel like they've gotten from actually getting what they want, they've gotten somehow like worse. But like, I don't know, because now they're cocky.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason that we actually got the Snyder Cut is because the movie was essentially finished already. It was all shot. I think all he really needed to do was like finish the visual effects.
I think the only new footage they ended up shooting was the stuff at the end.
I think you're right. I think that's all that they really shot, and it's a miracle that got, I mean, granted, that was like the part of the movie that we really didn't need.
Yeah,
but it's still like it's a miracle we got any new footage at all. And listen, like, we both liked the Zack Snyder's Justice League.
No, it's not a masterpiece, but it's
definitely a movie. We really enjoyed it.
It's a movie.
I personally would love to see more movies in the Snyderverse, but review bombing an entirely different, unrelated film is not the way to go about it.
No, it's entirely counterproductive.
It's totally counterproductive. And I mean, Warner Brothers is going to make money either way, so like it doesn't matter.
I mean, Godzilla vs. Kong is like the biggest box office draw this year so far.
Yeah, it's like I think just recently crossed 100 million.
Yeah.
Compared to Godzilla King of the Monsters, which did 136 million in its opening weekend. And that wasn't during a pandemic. So that's like way more impressive this time around. So yeah, any Snyder fans listening in, just
behave, please.
Behave, please. Behave. It's not the way to do it, man. Like,
everyone's had a terrible year, or terrible 2020. Just behave.
Just be happy with what you got, man.
Like you got the Snyder cut, and we got a good Godzilla movie. Like, just leave it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's talk about that Godzilla movie, shall we?
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
The day has come. I mean, granted, we're recording this like almost a week after the movie came out, but you know, we were busy doing other things at the time, and we usually record these on Mondays anyways, so, you know.
So today, are we going to not spoil or a light spoiler?
I think we should go into full spoiler. So if you have not seen Godzilla vs. Kong, go watch it, come back.
Lucky for you guys, it's on HBO Max.
It's on HBO Max, so go watch that, and then you can go watch Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Go get that 30-day free subscription. Apparently, it's really easy because HBO Max desperately wants people to actually get the service.
I know.
It's like the worst performing one.
I'm not surprised, but
I actually am curious to see what the metrics, if they've changed.
I think there was a big uptick when Justice League came out.
Yeah, but now it may go back down because my guess is a lot of it was free.
Probably. I don't know. We'll see. I don't even know if they'll release any of that, but
I mean, typically they do in Q4, so we'd have to wait till 2022.
Dang. All right, so as I said, the day's here. Godzilla vs. Kong is out. What do you think?
Thought it's pretty good.
I'm in agreement.
I don't really like to give movies stars or anything. I kind of just like to say my feeling. Pretty good movie. It's fun. It reminds me a lot of like it reminds me a lot of like the Showa movies where they're kind of just like fun, kind of enjoyable, not really any deep meaning behind them. I
think they're more like the Heisei era movies because they don't have a whole lot of meaning behind them.
Oh yeah.
Because the Heisei movies I feel are like super cash grabby.
Oh yeah.
Post Biollante, they're really cash grabbing and they don't really try to do anything interesting.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know. I mean, like, I guess from my point of view, it kind of reminded me a lot of like the original Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, because it's kind of just like, I don't know, kind of gave me the same sort of like feelings. Like, they're not the same movie or anything, but in terms of like, well, the big difference is that I can watch Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla as many times as I want, and I can't really watch Godzilla vs. Kong many times.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get into that. That is something I was thinking about.
But in terms of like enjoyability, they're very much the same.
Yeah, I would say so.
I think with the Heisei movies, they've always been kind of a slog to watch because like they're just not the most enjoyable ones.
They're really not. Like the characters aren't that great. The storyline's not that great. All the effects are pretty solid, but like everything else, but like that's not that's not the main thing I go to Godzilla
except for Junior. He's perfect.
Yes, absolutely. He is the perfect cinnamon roll, too pure for this world.
Yep.
But so what should we talk about first for Godzilla vs. Kong? We gotta think of something.
Well, I think the biggest in terms of like improvements over the previous ones, I think that the humans in this movie were not great, but they were much better.
They were they were definitely better.
I definitely enjoyed the relationship between the native girl and Kong.
Oh, Gia?
I thought that was a really nice relationship. I did think it was kind of weird how throwaway her like origin is, or not her origin, but like her past is. Like,
oh, like, yeah,
the
like
natives
in one line.
Like,
yeah,
for anyone who's assuming you've watched the movie, there is like a throwaway line that Gia's people, the native people that we saw in Kong Skull Island. The storm surrounding the island destabilized and came in and killed everybody on the island except Gia, and Kong saved her. You would think that they would want to like emphasize that a little bit, because that's a really strong bond to create. Because now it draws parallels, like Kong's people, or Kong's family is dead, and Gia's entire people, like her race is dead, and so they have a connection, but that's never really kind of explored. But I think beyond that, like even without it, I think their relationship is kind of like sweet to see. Like you can tell that they care about each other, and I think you just didn't get that with like the prior movies.
Yeah, and especially not like I'm kind of surprised they didn't really go into that in Kong Skull Island either. Mm-hmm. Though I mean, we didn't really have like an Iwi character. Yeah, that was they connected with.
They just kind of seemed like they were there.
Yeah,
the movie, like Kong Skull Island, was more about the soldiers and Kong, not really, either in direct opposition or nothing at all.
Yeah.
Like there was some soldiers that just wanted to kill Kong, and the rest of them were basically indifferent.
Yeah, I mean that was that whole movie was if you haven't seen it, it's the whole thing is an allegory for the Vietnam War, and so
very well done.
Very well done. And
shout out to Jordan. Again,
3 for 3.
Yep, 3 for 3.
But yeah, and so it didn't really make sense for us to have like that kind of native connection with Kong in that film. But this time around, there really isn't any allegorical stuff whatsoever in this movie. So it makes a little more sense. And I do think Gia is absolutely the heart of the film.
Oh, yeah.
She's the one that like they want us, that Adam Wingard wants us to care about. And
you could tell that that's where all the writing power went into.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean that scene at night when they have Kong in the boat and he's like not having it, and she goes out to like calm him down, and that's when we see Kong communicate for the first time. That's like incredible.
Yeah, that was very well done. Yeah.
The color grading and the how the music swells when Kong signs for the first time. Mm-hmm. So cool. It just that was such a well directed scene, and I'm so pleased with Adam Wingard's direction. Like I don't know if you've seen any of his other movies.
I think so. What else has he done?
The biggest things he's done are You're Next, The Guest, and then less liked the Death Note movie on Netflix, and also the latest Blair Witch film.
I have seen You're Next. I really liked You're Next. That is an awesome horror movie for anyone who's looking for one. It can feel a bit mean-spirited, but it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's great. And please watch The Guest. The Guest is incredible.
I've heard good things about The Guest.
And I'm a big fan of Dan Stevens as an actor, so I was already sold on that from the beginning. But
yeah, but this is a pretty big departure for Adam Wingard in terms of content.
Definitely, but
he's
like having
more
seen,
like horror focused.
He is, and like having seen The Guest, like there's a lot of similarities in visual style between that and Godzilla vs. Kong. Oddly enough, just in terms of like color and the way he uses color and lighting, and I was really happy to see it because it's such an. I don't think I've seen like a prettier looking kaiju film since probably the first Pacific Rim.
Yeah, actually, funny. I watched Pacific Rim just last night because I also felt a lot of similarities between Godzilla vs. Kong and Pacific Rim. Probably because both movies
have that neon, specifically the neon Hong Kong look.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hong Kong actually looks like this.
Yeah, that's also true.
My girlfriend, her parents are from Hong Kong. And I'm like, hey, does Hong Kong actually look like this? And she's like, yeah.
That's all, really?
Yeah. She's awesome. Like, yeah, and there's actually like mountains around there. So like, spoiler for the end of the movie, Mechagodzilla comes out of a mountain. There are mountains around there, and it is factual. Yeah.
Well, there you go. You learn something new every day. Now all you listeners know what Hong Kong looks like in real life.
Yeah. So apparently it's just like a really colorful place. And I was like, all right.
Very cool.
I can see why a lot of giant monster movies kind of end here. Or, why a lot of them
take place. Yeah. Going back on the characters, I did notice that Alexander, I'm going to butcher his last name because
Skarsgård?
Is it Skarsgård? Because he has the little circle above the A at the end.
Yeah.
Skarsgård.
I'm going to call him Skarsgård.
He's. Are they Swedish? The Skarsgård family?
Probably.
Some
kind of Eastern European.
Yeah. He, I felt, had much the same problem that Aaron Taylor Johnson did in Godzilla 2014, in that he didn't do a whole lot until the very end.
Yep.
But unlike Aaron Taylor Johnson, I feel like Skarsgård had way more charisma.
He was far more likable.
Yeah, he didn't do much, but like he was still enjoyable to watch as an actor, because he was just kind of like, oh, let's go to the Hollow Earth, and that was all he did for the entire film until the very end, until the final fight with Godzilla, Kong, and Mechagodzilla. But no, I know he's a good actor.
So,
I've seen him in other things.
So here's the thing with that, is that actually I found that all of his all the times that I really found myself enjoying watching him was when he was interacting with Gia.
Yeah, the coward thing.
The coward thing. I thought that was really funny.
That's very cute.
I thought that was really funny. And
I'm so glad that they dialed back on the quippiness from King of the Monsters.
Oh, as soon as King of the Monsters came out and all the Marvel quippy, whatever it was in that movie, I was like, if these are how they're going to be from now on, I'm not going to watch them.
There is still a level of that in Godzilla vs. Kong, but it's way more tolerable.
It is much dialed back, not obnoxious. It does not pause the movie like it does in King of the Monsters.
Yeah.
It feels like in King of the Monsters, they specifically carved out time to make jokes that didn't land.
I will never. And again, I love Krampus. I love Trick or Treat. I will never forgive Michael Dougherty for the Ghidorah gonorrhea joke.
Yep.
Never. I will never forgive him for that.
No.
That is one of the worst jokes I have ever heard in any movie.
Yeah,
and it's like even in the context of the scene, it just feels so out of place.
No, in the context of the whole movie, it's none of the joke, because this is okay, King of the Monsters, if you describe the plot to someone, it is an existential oh my god, that would destroy the planet, and that's the point of the movie.
That's what's happening.
So given a situation,
let's make an STD joke in the middle of this.
Given the situation, no person in their right mind is gonna make a gonorrhea joke.
Yeah,
especially in the face of this threat.
I'd also like to point out Ghidorah does not sound even remotely like gonorrhea.
No,
it has the G and the sound at the end. That's all it has.
I don't know. I feel like if they ever do because they're remastering 2014, they should do one for King of the Monsters. Just
cut that scene out.
Just cut out all the garbage that no one likes, which is honestly, it will cut down a good portion of that movie. And I already thought that movie overstayed its welcome.
Just a little bit.
So,
but I don't want to use this to harp on King of the Monsters too
much. We'll make it its own episode someday, because it's definitely an interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. But I do want to talk more about Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah.
Keeping on the characters, on my second watch, my second viewing especially, did Madison, Millie Bobby Brown's character, did she not seem like an entirely different character from the version King of the Monsters?
Yeah, she was completely different. They turned her into a podcast, conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, and I get that it's been 5 years since the events of King of the Monsters.
Yeah, and kids change a lot. I get that, but I mean really,
it just seems so, because in King of the Monsters, she has this reverential outlook at the monsters. She understands that these are basically gods, but now she's just all about conspiracy there. It's a weird character arc, and we don't really even see that arc happening.
But you see, here's the thing that like confused me the most is that her dad works for Monarch.
Yes.
You don't need to be a conspiracy theorist
Not at
because
all.
you
Not at
already
all.
know mostly everything because you have insider information from your dad.
Yeah, and I guess like maybe her dad wasn't telling her much about what was going on, but like
we don't see that.
we don't. And also like she was there during all the stuff in King of the Monsters. Like, why wouldn't you tell her about any of this stuff?
She's seen all this stuff up close. Remember, she got kidnapped by an
eco-terrorist.
An eco-terrorist organization. Her mom was like crazy, like knew all this stuff, and like she had all this knowledge that no one else had.
She stared Ghidorah himself down.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you talk to your daughter about what's going on?
So, like, it's not like
I know he says, oh, you should be paying attention in school. It's like, there's giant monsters, man. She can do that and school at the same time.
And also, from what we saw in in King of the Monsters, she's pretty smart. She worked that thing all by herself.
Yeah.
And, like, she's the daughter of two scientists. Mm-hmm. So, like, she's gonna be smart. That's how movies work. So, like, I don't know. I think that, they definitely shorted her in this movie.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I like Millie Bobby Brown as an actress. I think she's really good in Stranger Things, and I think she was pretty good in King of the Monsters as well. So it was just kind of like weird to see such a weird like whiplash of character development in this movie.
So what it struck me as was they needed a character to like be like that kind of like conspiracy theorist.
But we had that with Brian Tyree Henry's character, Bernie.
Yeah. I don't know.
And I really like his character, too. I think Brian Tyree Henry's a phenomenal actor. I don't know if you've seen any of Atlanta with Donald Glover, but he's so good in that movie.
But I guess what I was trying to say is they needed one of the main people that we already knew to meet up with him.
Mm.
And so, like, we needed someone to be on, like, the same kind of ground. And the only person that they could make that work with was...
That's fair.
Was Madison.
I can see that.
But like it didn't really end up working.
Oh, you know what they should have done?
What?
They should have had Sam from 2014 Godzilla.
Oh.
He should have been our conspiracy theorist kid. That would have been cool. And I love Julian Dennison. I think I love him in Hunt for the Wilder People. I love him in Deadpool 2.
That's the kid, right?
Yeah, the kid with the Judas Priest shirt who's breaking the law in a Godzilla movie. So I'm like, all right, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But like, had they replaced his character with Sam from 2014, that would have been awesome. I feel like because we haven't seen any of the characters from 2014 whatsoever.
The cast from 2014 was entirely disconnected from.
Yeah, I mean we had Admiral Stenz, I think his name is, in King of the Monsters.
Oh yeah. But he was in there for like a minute.
And also like he was an entirely different character as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of character rewriting for the people carrying over.
There does, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, other than that, like...
But here's the thing, is that, like, as much as these problems may hurt other movies, it doesn't with this one, because it's such a concise movie that as soon as you're just like, oh, that's stupid, it moves on.
Yeah.
So it kind of knows.
I mean, I've been seeing a lot of people saying this. The movie is incredibly self-aware.
Yeah.
It knows what it is. It knows why you're here. And it sets out to do the one thing it wants, and I think it succeeds very well in that. Mm-hmm. I appreciated that it didn't set out to be about something, which is what King of the Monsters tried and failed spectacularly to do. And don't get me wrong, it's very possible to do something like that. I mean, granted, it's not really an American production, but like Shin Godzilla was about something, and it accomplished it pretty well.
Even Godzilla 2014 was it repurposed the original messaging to be more about like natural disasters and like the Fukushima incident.
Yeah, and I mean,
and that was an American production.
It was,
which is rare because Americans do not know how to write about that stuff.
Case in point, King of the Monsters.
Yep.
But in a movie like Colossal, I don't know if you've seen Colossal.
I did. I watched it with Allie.
All right, we need to do an episode on Colossal.
Yeah, very good movie. I loved it.
That, for me, that's like probably the best kaiju movie since probably GMK.
It is the only kaiju movie that has made me cry extremely masculine tears. I felt genuinely bad for some of the characters in that movie.
Yeah, like that is a perfect example of a non-Japanese kaiju production that is about something and it does phenomenally.
So, actually, about that movie, it is the only one I've seen that tackles like extremely personal issues, but by using kaiju as the outlet.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really creative because most of the time with kaiju, as most fans would know, is it tackles really large problems like, atomic, disasters and natural disasters, climate change, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like these really large scale problems. And Colossal doesn't do that and just tackles stuff
it tackles a much more concise
personal
issue.
issues.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it worked so well. It's because it didn't have these sweeping issues that it had to cover. But yeah, we'll have to do an episode
Absolutely,
on that for
I would
sure.
love to. I adore Colossal.
I love that movie so much.
Yeah.
I feel bad it took me this long to watch it.
But yeah, so that's something Godzilla vs. Kong didn't do, and I'm sort of glad that it didn't, because I didn't really want it to try and be about something like King of the Monsters did and then also fail, because that would have just made me irrationally angry.
Well, because if you try to make the movie about something and you fail, that is like a deal breaker for some people. Like some people, they can get past it. I know like a couple people, they like King of the Monsters just fine. None of the messaging that got screwed up really messed with them too much.
And that's totally okay.
And that's fine. But like there are fans that got into these movies because a lot of them have something to say. And if they don't say them well, then they just won't like them. It's a deal breaker. It was a deal breaker for me.
Yep.
With some other stuff. It depends on if you can overlook it. But like this movie, Godzilla vs. Kong, it didn't have to say anything. It didn't. And I'm glad it didn't, because with the track record so far, it's not good.
It's certainly been...
And the track record with American films specifically are not good. So I was like, if you don't have to say something, don't. Just make it fun.
Yeah, I mean, I've described the movie to people as a Saturday morning cartoon on a multi-million-dollar budget.
Oh yeah,
because that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
Because we get right into the action. Like first frame, we open with Kong,
and it's good action too.
Yeah,
it's good. It's not just like flashing lights schlock.
Yeah, like it actually is very well choreographed. I mean, one of the cooler bits from King of the Monsters that I also wasn't crazy about was Godzilla fighting Ghidorah in the water after Rodan wakes up.
Yep.
You can't tell what's happening in that scene.
No, you can't see anything.
You can just kind of see like a mass writhing in the ocean. But when we see Godzilla and Kong fighting in the ocean, like the camera's right, it's
following them. It's
following them, and you can see what's going on. And I'm like, that's awesome, because Godzilla as a semi-aquatic animal, he absolutely has the advantage in the water.
Yep.
And you could tell Kong was
struggling.
He was struggling.
There's a reason he wants to stay on that island.
Exactly. So I'm really glad that the action was so well choreographed, because I know that was a big problem that people had with King of the Monsters, that like you couldn't tell what was going on just because of how close everything was, of how the camera movement was. It was just really incoherent.
I actually have a theory about that.
Okay.
And it's the reason why I think Godzilla vs. Kong's action is so much better than King of the Monsters. So in Godzilla 2014, the way it was filmed, Gareth Edwards did that thing where he's like, you look up at everything to give it mass. And it's a really good way of filming if you have very minimal fights. So a lot of Godzilla 2014 is really just seeing these monsters lay waste to wherever they're at. And only at the very end do you see these fights. And the fights, they're not super big. Like, you see what's going on.
And when they do fight, the camera has been pulled out.
It's pulled out very far. It's kind of like in the shot of like, if it was like actually there is a shot of like a scout sniper team like watching a fight. And that is from the angle that you're seeing the fight at.
Yeah.
And so Gareth Edwards wanted to give all of this monster action a human perspective to make it seem larger than life. King of the Monsters, I think, tried to emulate that with some of it, and it just did not work, because the way that the fight was so much more complex than what we saw in 2014.
Yeah.
You have Ghidorah, you have Rodan, you have Mothra. Godzilla is much more active in King of the Monsters. They're all moving around quite fast, and the camera, it just can't keep up with it. And then when it comes to the water, like, you just can't make it work because it's trying to give you the point of view of a boat. And if you're on a boat, all you're going to see is a writhing mass.
Yeah, and waves and nothing else.
And it's just not interesting to look at.
Exactly.
With Godzilla versus Kong, it just follows the monsters. Like, it's not as visually interesting, but at least you know what's happening. Like, you know what's going on. You know how the fight's going. You're not like, what am I looking at right now? And there are some really cool shots in this movie. Specifically with Mechagodzilla, and like some of the stuff that he can do, like destroying the entire skyline of Hong Kong with his laser beam, which was incredible to watch. Stuff like that, and that's why I think that King of the Monsters, like the camera work in that movie, is just not good. Like that's my theory, at least. I could be wrong, and it's been a while since I've watched King of the Monsters, but I don't know. Would you agree?
For the most part, I'd say I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember my dad after we watched it, my dad was like, some of the things in Hong Kong were a little incoherent. I personally didn't see any of that. I thought it
could have been like some people like just have problems following stuff if there's too much lighting.
Yeah, I think he did mention the lights, so I think that may have been,
because it is a very, very colorful place.
It is.
Yeah.
You know what else is a colorful place? The whole Hollow Earth thing.
Yeah.
That was
so cool.
One of the coolest locations I've ever seen in a kaiju movie.
I do wish Godzilla and Kong fought down there.
Yeah, I remember seeing someone post, I think it was Chris Stuckman in his review, where he said he really would have loved to see Godzilla and Kong fighting in that weird section where the gravity's kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, because there's like the land on top and then the land on bottom, and like you can like go to both because the gravity like switches around.
I have a question for you about the Hollow Earth that my friend brought up. Where's the light coming from?
Dude, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe some kind of like fluorescent like light. Or not light, like
I don't know, man.
There's just like office lights, like the flickering like fluorescent lights. You just like, if you took everything out of there, all you'd hear is like the slight buzzing of like the fluorescent light. No, honestly, I don't know. I'd like to learn more about Hollow Earth because it's such an interesting thing, and I feel like you could really like come up with some like absolutely nuts like sci-fi reasoning for stuff.
Yeah,
but they just didn't go into it a whole lot.
Yeah, I would love if we do get a sequel to this, I would love to explore more of the Hollow Earth because it is a really cool location. It's got some really interesting creatures. The war bats I thought were a really cool design.
I really like those like the serpent kind of like flying things.
The war bats.
Those are war bats. I thought you were talking about the ones in the cave.
No, those were, I think they're called like hell hawks or something.
Those were creepy.
They were creepy, and I don't know if you saw this, but like there was one shot that I could have sworn looked like it had been done with practical effects. It looked way too real to be CGI, and maybe that's just Weta Digital being that dang good at their jobs, which of course they are.
Probably are, yeah.
But the way the creature moved compared to the previous shots where it was very clearly CGI, it looked too real.
I'll have to look into it.
And I actually messaged Adam Wingard on Instagram about it. He hasn't gotten back to me. And
Do you think he will?
No, not at all. But I mean, it can't hurt.
Well, if he does, ask him to be on the podcast.
Oh my god, I would love for him to be on the podcast.
That'd be so cool. Just do like a 5-minute call in.
Have you seen the pictures of him with Michael Dougherty, Gareth Edwards, and Jordan Vogt Roberts?
I have.
The dude's massive.
Yeah, he's huge.
He's like 6'5" or something. I was not expecting him to be that tall.
Yeah, he's like
towers over everyone else. Like, oh my god,
he's a real life.
How big is this guy?
A real life kaiju.
Yeah, he's a real life kaiju.
Yep.
But yeah, I really want to see more of the Hollow Earth.
They should make a like an expedition movie with just humans.
So kind of like Kong Skull Island, but for the Hollow Earth.
Yeah. But like with all new monsters. I mean, maybe like Kong because he lives down there.
Yeah,
now.
he's just now kind of like the overseer.
Just an expedition movie, just like.
That would be really cool. Yeah, because
honestly, kind of like Peter Jackson Kong, just without Kong, because the island is like really good and like really well portrayed in that movie.
Yeah,
and I feel like you could do a lot of cool stuff.
I saw this article about 10 hidden Easter eggs and references in Godzilla vs. Kong.
Oh, was it by Watch Mojo?
I have no idea. It was one of the clickbait sites, but they tried to claim that the big derpy lizard that we see eating the crab, they try to be like, oh, it kind of looks like Baragon. I'm like, not really.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't have big floppy ears, doesn't have a horn.
It actually looks a lot like Godzilla.
It did, because he's got those kind of dorsal spines. But like, God, that's like the biggest stretch I've ever seen.
Yeah, was it Cinema Blend?
I have no idea who it was.
Cinema Blend does a lot of that stuff.
It may have been, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
But
Slow News Week.
Probably. But I mean, I love the whole throne room sequence is really cool.
I like how we saw the Godzilla kind of sigil looking thing.
Yeah, and I do love how petty Godzilla is, because he's going to Hong Kong, he's going to fight Mechagodzilla, and he's like, hold on, something's going on there, and then you just use the atomic breath to tunnel through the earth, just to be like, hey Kong, you suck, and then he walks away.
He's like, hold on, you know what? Let me blow a hole through the earth, scream at Kong, and then continue on my way forward.
He's just so petty, and I love it. And apparently, like, Toho were the ones who want him to be like such a dick in this movie, and I'm like, all right.
I mean, I kind of get it, because listen, I was kind of getting sick of the good guy Godzilla thing. Like, listen, he can be cool, but he is not meant to be friendly to people.
Yeah,
he's very much uncaring of humans. So I was kind of getting sick of it.
Yeah, but it was very refreshing to see him just be a total jerk in this movie.
Yeah. And we didn't even get any resolution. From all that we know, he's going to continue being a dick in the next couple movies. Because he like the meme you sent me where it's just like, I am a benevolent god or whatever.
Yeah, the 300 meme.
He like screamed at Kong and then like just went into the ocean.
Yeah, so let's talk about, because the big thing was like, oh, who's gonna win? We may have been in agreement on this. I was totally convinced they were gonna have Kong win this.
Yeah, Godzilla won.
Godzilla. I mean, yeah, Godzilla won. Granted, they did at the very end. They did the whole like, oh, they see each other as equals thing, but I was really kind of surprised that they had Godzilla win, because Kong was basically the main character throughout the entire movie. And the fact that they gave the win to Godzilla was really, it was kind of surprising, honestly. And I'm not complaining, obviously. It was really cool that they did that.
So I'm actually, like, I was definitely surprised, but I wasn't like as surprised as I thought I'd be, because I was kind of like, yeah, you know what, that makes sense. Because he said all this buildup that he's just like this indestructible monster.
That's fair.
And like, it feels weird that they would just kind of undo it in one movie. Like, I knew what they were going to do, is they were just going to be like, oh, Godzilla's not the enemy, go kill Mechagodzilla.
Yeah,
like, obviously. I knew that was going to happen, and I knew that they were not going to kill off Kong or Godzilla.
No, God, no.
It just wasn't going to happen. But like, I feel like the way that they handled it was the best way they possibly could have. I'm glad Godzilla won.
So am I.
Because realistically, it's just probably the most likely outcome. But I am glad that Kong continues being the character. Like, in my book, he's the winner of the movie, because I like Kong more than Godzilla in this movie.
I mean, Kong had Godzilla on the ropes during that Hong Kong sequence. Yeah. Before the axe lost power.
They both very much beat the hell out of each other.
Very much so.
And if anything, I mean, we don't even hear like a true whoever is like, we're not even told who the winner is.
Yeah.
So my headcanon at this point is that they're both just decided that they had a tie, and then they did like the Predator thing where they go like,
the Predator handshake.
Yeah, but instead they did it with roaring, and they're just like, you know what, we're buds now. Yeah, because if I need you, I'll call you.
Yeah, I mean, you really think that they're just gonna go at each other again.
Yep.
And you can tell Kong's like, this is gonna suck.
He's like, I really don't want to do this.
All right, you're cool, but don't catch me. Don't let me catch you around here again.
He's like, you pulled that thing's head off. You know what? That was pretty sick. Something I would have done. But
I have to imagine we're gonna get more of these movies then. Like, if Godzilla won, I have to imagine we'll see more of this.
If they are anything like this movie, I will definitely watch them.
That's where I disagree.
Really?
Yeah, because as much as I enjoyed this movie, I don't, and with the way this movie is performing, I have a bad feeling that Legendary is going to take the wrong lesson from this.
Oh, okay. I see
in
what
that
you mean.
people, there's that minority of people who are like, oh, we don't need humans in giant monster movies. We just want monsters beating the crap out of each other. And again, as awesome and fun as this movie was, that's gonna wear really thin really quickly. And I can maybe do one more of these movies like this.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 viewings of Godzilla vs. Kong, and I have absolutely no desire to watch it again.
Same.
Because there's not enough substance there for me to like really care about it again. Like, yeah, all the action's really cool, but like that's about it. I can just watch a supercut of it on YouTube or something. I don't need to watch the whole movie to really get the Godzilla vs. Kong experience.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think I'm more just have like wishful thinking that they're just going to keep getting directors that kind of have like a background in this stuff. But I do know what you mean, because I know with like studio oversight, they can be pretty hands-on and single-handedly ruin movies. Original Justice League. So like I see what you're saying. I definitely have wishful thinking that they're gonna if they continue with characters kind of like Gia and just make them interesting and connect them to the monsters in interesting ways, but like on a grander scale. Yeah, I'd like that. But I do see what you mean by if they continue to be like this, and I do agree that it is not a very rewatchable movie. Definitely more rewatchable than King of the Monsters, because this is. I don't know if I mentioned it, but this is a very brisk movie.
It is. It's under 2 hours.
It goes very fast. It's a very concise film, but it doesn't really challenge.
Which it does occasionally suffer for.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of the characters didn't get their chance to shine. Like Ren Serizawa, the guy who the guy who's at Apex Cybernetics, who pilots Mechagodzilla.
Yep.
Not once does it get mentioned that he's Ishiro Serizawa's son.
Yeah, that was weird.
Like,
I actually didn't notice.
It's Serizawa. Like, that's the only, just his last name. That's the only indication that he's even, he might not even be related.
I didn't even notice that until my second viewing.
Yeah, they don't, because like you'd think, Ishiro Serizawa, who is Ken Watanabe's character from Godzilla and King of the Monsters.
Best character in those movies.
His whole thing was that he wanted to coexist with the Titans, and his son is trying to like get rid of the Titans, and it's like that could have been a really cool, character. I mean, granted, Ishiro's dead, but we could have seen this like really cool internal conflict with Ren, and because we never got any indication that they were related at all, except for a last name, but like we never got it, and I feel like that was definitely like kind of a missed opportunity. And there's another big missed opportunity in this movie that we both discussed earlier, and let's talk about Mechagodzilla.
Yeah. I mean, I still like him.
I still don't love the design.
No, actually, the one thing I hate about the design is how it's shoulders and then just immediately arm and no like drop and then arm. That bugs me.
His what's the word I'm looking for? His proportions are very weird. He looks too skinny.
Yeah.
He looks like he should have way more, because Godzilla he's very stocky.
Yep.
And I feel like Mechagodzilla should be just a little more, his torso is just a little too skinny.
Yeah, but I think my opinion on it is, yes, his proportions are very strange. But it really does give me the feeling that this was just a thing slapped together on a weekend by a company, a company trying to like keep it under the radar.
Yeah, and I love that aspect of it. I feel like the design could have used a little more tweaking.
Yeah,
but I love that concept on paper, and I love that it looks more cobbled together.
But it does not translate on screen.
I mean, it does to an extent, but not as much as I would have liked.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm still not a fan of like just the kind of straight spines.
Yeah, I don't like that either. That would be the one thing I would change if I could. Except the arm thing. I hate the arm thing. That's the most petty complaint I've ever had.
I like the little weird little claw hands he has.
His claw hands are they do remind me a lot of the original Mechagodzilla with the way that his arms kind of spin around.
Yeah.
I mean, missed opportunity with no finger rockets, but
he had shoulder rockets. It's fine.
Yeah. I hope he. I mean, like, the thing about Mechagodzilla is that in this movie, he could have been so interesting.
He could have, because what we find out is that, so in the after credit scene for King of the Monsters, we see Charles Dance's character, who unfortunately does not make an appearance in this movie.
Where is he?
Who knows?
And how?
Who knows?
I don't know.
We see him buying the severed Ghidorah head from Godzilla's fight with Ghidorah in the ocean, and we learn in this movie that Apex Cybernetics bought Ghidorah's head from Jonah, I guess,
or maybe like stole it. Or,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Point is, they have Ghidorah's
maybe Jonah
head.
lost the bid.
He lost the bid, but yeah, they have Ghidorah's skull, and they used.
No, they have two.
Do they have two?
They have two because they said that because it's a psionic connection. There's one skull that they're using as the control,
right.
and then another one.
Where did the other one come from?
And the other one in the robot body. I have no idea.
Because weren't all of Ghidorah's
I mean, maybe they
totally
regrew
annihilated.
Maybe they regrew it. I don't know. Because he can do that.
Maybe they cloned it.
Maybe they did. I don't know.
But yeah, so point is they're using Ghidorah's heads as like a neural connection, kind of like the drift in Pacific Rim, to control and pilot Mechagodzilla. And what happens is Mechagodzilla loses control, and we're not really told why. We get a kind of thing where like the power source that they're going to the Hollow Earth for, like Ren mentions, it might not work too well with Mechagodzilla's systems. But that's all it really is. We don't really get into that anymore. What I thought, and what you also thought, was that when Mechagodzilla lost control, it was what little brain activity was still in Ghidorah was kind of infecting the system and taking it over. I still don't know if that was really the implication. I know I've seen a lot of fans.
I hope it was.
I hope it was too.
Because that is really cool.
It is, and it looks like a lot of other fans online have had the same thought.
I mean, it was my immediate reaction.
Yeah.
If you introduce Ghidorah's skull, then there is gonna. It's just a natural conclusion that I'm gonna come to, because like he's like pure evil. So
he is, and the fact, having Ghidorah wake up in a mechanical double of his arch rival is such a cool concept.
That's what I said. I said it was the most metal thing I've
really
ever
is.
seen. Like, you're dead and you get revived and you're in this like mechanical copy of the thing that killed you. That is incredibly cool.
It is. And the fact that they didn't lean into that almost at all is like,
no,
that is a huge missed opportunity.
You know what they could have done to like properly convey it was just make another roar that was like a digitized version of Godzilla and King Ghidorah's roar.
There are a couple times where you can sort of kind of hear that Ghidorah cackle in there. It's subtle. It's really subtle.
But like make it more pronounced. Because then like it would portray it more to people who are listening.
Yeah.
And the sound design for this movie is already good.
The sound design is pretty good.
Like, it's not the best, but it is
the sound design across all these movies have been pretty good. The only thing I wasn't a fan of was Rodan's roar in King of the Monsters, because it didn't sound anything like Rodan's classic roar.
He just sounded like
a generic monster.
Yeah, he didn't sound very cool.
But
his music was great. Top tier.
But yeah, I think the whole Mechagodzilla Ghidorah connection should have been explored just a little bit more.
Yeah. And you know what? If they do make more of these movies, they may do that.
They may. Yeah.
If they make more of these movies, I hope their characters are good. But you do also have this giant monster stuff that is interesting to explore through the lens of human characters. That was actually my biggest problem with like Millie Bobby Brown's character, like her whole subplot in this movie. While I did actually find that it was kind of essential to the plot because you were figuring out what Apex was doing, they didn't really accomplish anything as people.
They really did. I mean,
but like they
helped
could
Kong get the upper hand when he was fighting Mechagodzilla.
Barely though.
Barely.
Like, but like they could have been a perfect group of people to like explore more about what this iteration of Mechagodzilla is all about, the problems behind it, what's going on, but they didn't. All they did was throw some whiskey into a computer, and that was the end of the movie. Like, they were in the control room of Mechagodzilla, and they did not find any information to explain or like be like, man, that's crazy. Like I don't know. Like there's got to be something in there that you can like. Yeah, they did show us that it's King Ghidorah's skull.
Yeah.
But like, there's nothing else they could tell us, and like they could have had a conversation with Serizawa's son, and maybe.
I mean, the thing is, like, I don't think any of. Well, I mean, Bernie and Josh were new to the movie, obviously, but like, I don't think Madison ever met Ishiro Serizawa, so like, I guess they wouldn't really have had anything to talk about.
No, but her dad did, and her dad may have told her.
But we determined that her dad doesn't really tell her anything.
Yeah, that's fair. But we don't know that.
I know.
See, that's the thing where, like, on the second watching of this movie, it's like with these secondary plots or the side plots, they don't really have a lot of connective tissue to anything. They kind of just branch off and then end, and they don't really come back to the main story except for very minimal ways. And there's really only one of those side plots. I mean, if you count like the very small amount of Monarch stuff that we see in this movie, which was really jarring.
Oh my god, I didn't even realize that. Monarch barely has a presence in this movie.
Monarch in the last two movies was the dominant government organization that we see in the movies, and they show up for like 2 scenes in this movie. One at like the very beginning when Godzilla first attacks Apex,
and then one at the very end.
One at the very end. I'm not even counting the stuff on the boat or like Kong's containment facility, because we don't see any of it. Like,
exactly.
All we see is generic tunnels and stuff. But where were they? I don't know.
Who knows?
They were sitting around.
Yeah, I mean, they Monarch was very clearly set up as the shield of this cinematic universe.
I was actually hoping that Mechagodzilla was going to come from Monarch, because that would make like a weird like, oh no, they're not good.
But the whole thing was Monarch is trying to like carry on Serizawa's legacy by trying to.
Yeah, but what if it's like a last resort?
Maybe.
Like if it's a last resort kind of thing, then that would be kind of like, well, humans inherently just don't.
That's fair. They're not a trusting species. That's very true.
I don't know. I mean, like, maybe that wouldn't translate very well on screen. I'm not a writer. I don't come up with these things. I'm not very smart. I just watch them and decide if I like it or not.
Yeah. I wanted to talk real quick about the Mechagodzilla fight.
Okay.
Because it is very, very cool.
It is cool.
I love that they put in the little Easter egg that they have the beam clash, which was the first showed up in the original Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, and then again in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. So I like that they kind of continued that tradition. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. And then Kong performing the Sub-Zero fatality on Mechagodzilla, which is also a reference to how the original Mechagodzilla was defeated with a decapitation.
Oh yeah,
that made me smile quite a bit.
As a fan of the original. If anyone who doesn't know this, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, the first one, is my favorite Godzilla movie ever made.
It's mine too.
I have Mechagodzilla tattooed on my arm, so don't question me. It was just such like a cool fight. Like I loved how they used Mechagodzilla's like abilities, like he was able to just like zoom around all over the place.
Yeah, like he had those jets on his back, but he didn't use it to fly. He just kind of used it as like
because
kind of like a leap.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't make him fly, because that would look ridiculous.
It really would.
But they gave him these cool movement abilities where he was able to kind of just like dash.
Yeah,
like it was a lot like a video game fight. But it was just like super cool because like he fought much differently than Godzilla, and I thought that's the coolest thing is just seeing like something that kind of looks like Godzilla, not really, but doing all these crazy things, and the fact that he was able to beat the hell out of him was also cool, because again, Godzilla is kind of an indestructible.
Yeah, and I liked how right before Kong intervened, Mechagodzilla was about to do like the kiss of death thing that Godzilla did on the Muto.
I did notice that. That was awesome.
That's a cool callback.
That was cool, yeah. No, yeah, it was a good fight. It was a good fight. You know, for all the shortcomings of this movie, the fight scenes really do a really good job of like investing you.
Mm-hmm.
I watched this movie by myself the day it came out, and then I also watched it again the same day with Dakota, my roommate, and he was just like, "Oh hell yeah!" As soon as like anything started happening, he's just like, "Oh hell yeah!" Like he saw, like the first time they introduced Mechagodzilla, he killed the Skullcrawler. He's just like, "All right, man, I'm in on this. This is awesome." It's interesting watching these movies with my roommate because he's not like super into like these like you and I are, but like he's into them enough, and like if he's like, I can generally tell if it's good if he likes it, because like he can't hold his attention on this stuff if it's not fun to watch.
Understandable.
But like all the Mechagodzilla stuff like was cool. Again, I have my woes with the design. It's never going to beat the original for me.
No.
And it's not even going to beat Kiryu.
No.
Kiryu looks really cool.
I don't think we'll ever. I mean, as much as I love Kiryu, that'll never beat the original, and I don't think it came very close.
It definitely beat the Heisei Mechagodzilla, though. Oh god.
I've seen a lot of discourse online about people not liking the Mechagodzilla design for this movie, and people saying, "Oh yeah, the Heisei one's the best." I'm like,
no.
What the heck are you talking about?
That thing was the worst.
It's weird and streamlined, and
you know what the worst part about
rotund.
it too is that it fought exactly like how Godzilla fights, which is not what you want.
Yeah.
Because if you're not like, because the strengths of Mechagodzilla is that because it is mechanical, it can do stuff that Mechagodzilla can't.
Yeah.
Because it's not organic, and it's controlled by people, and it just has more abilities, and that's what I like the most about Mechagodzilla, generally speaking. Like most of the time, Mechagodzilla can fly. In this movie, it would look ridiculous, but you kind of get an equal to that ability. Like that's what I find so appealing about him, and also because he is like really cool looking. I do really like his face in this movie. Mechagodzilla's face in this movie is scary. His eyes are really cool, which is maybe why they made it the plot driving force in the beginning.
One of the things I noticed, because multiple times it kind of zooms in on his eye and it has that kind of like weird pulsing sound.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got this. Do you think that was kind of like recycled Orca tech?
It could have been.
Because how else would Godzilla have known that was happening if he didn't hear that pulsing?
I think that... So here's the thing. I actually was kind of like confused as to like, it's obvious that this pulsing sound is driving Godzilla to come attack them. So just turn it off. Like, just don't power it on. So the only thing I really came to...
I think they wanted to lure him in so they could take him out.
Well, yeah, but even at the beginning of the movie, he destroyed the factory because the eye was on, and they were even saying like, we can only like have this thing powered on for so long because then Godzilla will come and like find us.
Well, I think at the beginning they wanted to try and turn humanity against Godzilla.
Oh.
I think that's what they were going for there.
I don't know, but I guess what I was trying to what I was thinking was that maybe they just didn't know that pulsating sound was what was driving him there.
Possibly.
Because like I have a feeling that with a lot of the characters in this movie, they know as little as we do. Yeah. Especially with like Hollow Earth stuff, which is why an Expedition movie would be so cool. Please hire me. But there was a lot of connective tissue in this movie that just wasn't there. So in follow-up movies, I hope we get it. I do see what you're saying. Like, if they're going to be like this, then I'd rather them just not be made.
Yeah.
But wishful thinking on my end. I hope it's just not like that. There's a lot of great directors out there who are monster film.
And honestly, I wouldn't even. I wouldn't be opposed to a MonsterVerse film that didn't have Kong or Godzilla.
Yeah.
Like if we got
again anything with Hollow Earth.
Yeah, anything with Hollow Earth. I would love to see like a Mothra or Rodan film, or just
a Mothra film would be really good because we did kind of get hints of the Mothra.
I've been seeing a lot of people like kind of like rallying to get like to get a Mothra film made, and I would love to see that because Mothra hasn't really had her own film since 1999 with Rebirth of Mothra 3, which I've been revisiting those films. They're not great. Rebirth of Mothra 2 was like a total slog to get through because I didn't care about any of the characters, and it's just like an hour into the movie, you're like, oh, this should be winding down soon. Then you check the time, it's like, oh, there's 45 minutes left of this movie.
Oh no, I haven't watched them yet. I probably should watch the Mothra films. You gave them to me for free.
I did. I forgot about that because I won them in a sweepstakes.
You didn't think you were gonna
so I bought them because I didn't think I was gonna win.
And then you were like, hey Brian, do you want these movies that are definitely not great? And I said sure.
Well, there was that and Godzilla 2000. There may be one more in there as well.
Well, I mean, specifically to the Mothra.
Yeah.
You were just like, yeah. I mean, like half of these movies I'm giving you are watchable.
But yeah, and even something like one of the various other Titans we see at the end of King of the Monsters. Like, I would love to see something with like
a Skullcrawler horror movie.
Oh my god, that'd be so cool.
That would be cool.
That'd be so cool.
Mm-hmm.
But
because those things are scary.
They are.
Yeah, those are like genuinely frightening designs.
And I do really like that Apex was kind of like breeding Skullcrawlers to use to, test Mechagodzilla's effectiveness.
Also, coincidence that the company is called Apex, and then the bio or like the thing from Pacific Rim: The Black is also called Apex.
Oh, that is cool.
It's almost like it's a cool name.
Ooh.
Yeah,
maybe it's all connected. Maybe they're going for that Pacific Rim Godzilla crossover.
Yeah,
that everyone wants, but probably wouldn't work.
No, it definitely would not, unless they're like maybe parallel universes or something. I don't know. It definitely wouldn't work.
No, not
because like this style, like stylistically, they're so different.
Yeah. I mean, I'm overall, I think I'm pleased with the film.
Mm-hmm.
I would like something with a little more substance.
My expectations were met. And they were low, so they were exceeded. Yeah. They were exceeded.
Yeah, I would say so as well.
I kept my expectations low for a reason. Didn't really get hyped. I only watched a couple of the trailers. Mm-hmm. Like I kept up with the news on it, but like I didn't want to get hyped because I was supremely disappointed with King of the Monsters. So I was like, I am not doing that again. And I mean, as long as you keep your expectations in check, this movie is pretty solid.
One of my friends who was the one who like despised King of the Monsters. Mm-hmm. His review for Godzilla vs. Kong was 1 sentence long. It was 2.5 stars out of 5. He goes, "I've enjoyed other movies less." I'm like, all right, I'll take that.
That's a good review.
I comment, I'm like, that's a quote for the DVD box art if ever I saw one.
Yeah, it is. What if you see it there when it comes out on Blu-ray?
I'd be very happy for him.
I've seen better movies. Adam Wingard picks it himself.
Oh my god.
He's like, "Sir, we need you to pick one review to put on the box."
I want the one where he talks about liking other movies less.
Yeah, because I know which one he's talking about.
But I mean, I think that we've covered all our bases here. We've kind of talked about all.
This is a long one.
It is a long one. I was expecting it to be a long one because it's the biggest thing in Godzilla news and Toku news.
Yep. It's hot off the press.
Hot off the press.
Yep.
So well, I think we'll skip the what cool new kaiju thing are you checking out, because the cool new kaiju thing we're checking out is Godzilla vs. Kong. So,
yeah.
And we kind of went into that for the past hour or so.
And actually, there is not a new thing, but thing I am going to watch. I'm going to rewatch Rampage.
There you go.
Within the next couple days, because when I was watching it, I was like, I don't know why, but this is reminding me a lot of Rampage, even though I've only seen it once. But I want to go back and I want to rewatch it because I was like, I remember liking that. And I think you told me that you had watched it recently.
I watched it with my dad recently.
And it did hold up.
Yeah, it's a lot like Godzilla vs. Kong. It's a very uncomplicated popcorn blockbuster.
So I'm gonna go watch that. Gonna have fun. Hopefully,
maybe we'll do a Rampage episode next week. Who knows?
I would be down the George cast.
The George cast. I mean, Lord knows I don't really know what we're doing for the next episode. So
we got to do Pacific Rim Uprising.
We don't have to do that next.
We don't have to do it next. I don't think I'm prepared to do it.
Neither am I.
But I mean, I'd be down for Rampage. I'm gonna watch it anyways.
Okay.
So
stay tuned. Maybe we'll talk about Rampage next week. Maybe we'll talk about something entirely different like Colossal. Who knows?
And because we're going to spoil it, go watch Rampage this week. Rent it.
Go watch Rampage. Go watch Colossal. I think Colossal's on Hulu.
Right? Oh, we should do a Colossal episode as well.
All right.
You could do a twofer. One Colossal and Rampage. So next week, Colossal, Rampage, and then week after
that'll be another long episode.
Yeah. Because Colossal makes me feel bad.
That's fair.
Yep.
But all right. Well, I think that'll do it for today.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, this has been Talking Toku, Boston's only. I almost said Boston's only classic rock.
Wow.
Because that's WZLX. Boston's only podcast about Godzilla, Gamera, Ultraman, and all their other kaiju friends. I am your host, David Scrivani.
I am the co-host, Brian Kershaw.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Follow us on Twitter
at Talking Toku. And on Facebook, also at Talking Toku. See you guys there.